Welcome to Funny Time. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like the video. Once upon a time, there was a king who had a very beautiful and young wife. He was always very insecure because he was convinced that some of his officers were trying to have sex with her. He thought for a few months about the way he could test which one of his officers it is. Finally, he came up with the perfect test. He made all his officers put on a very tight pants and told them, if any of you gets a boner, it will be your end. So he called in the first man and has him standing next to him. And then he calls his wife to come to them. She was thoroughly beautiful, and it didn't take long for the officer to get boner just by looking at her face and figure. And that was the end of it. The king thought to himself, well, that should do it, but I better check all my officers, just to be sure there is no one else. So he called in the second one, and has him waiting next to him, and calls his wife to come to them. So she comes inside, and the king is looking at the man, but nothing happens. After 5 minutes, the king orders his wife to remove her blouse. The wife removes her blouse, and sure enough, the man gets a boner. And what was the end of it? The king thought that maybe it was too much for the man to have him standing there, and he decided that for the next officer, his wife will go alone and she will report to him if there was a boner or not. So he goes to the room where the next officer was waiting, and she takes her blouse off. Nothing happens. She then removes her panties, and nothing happens. She goes and calls the king to come and see. But the poor man, just by thinking about the king, gets a boner exactly at the same moment when the king enters the room.